Hey everybody, let's go ahead and get started. This is the webinar, How FRQ Practice with Students' Own Utility Data Will Boost Exam Scores and Your Sanity. I'm Nate Conroy. I'm a former teacher turned co-creator of Meter Hero. It's an award-winning AP environmental science enhancement, and it's based on the fundamental belief that real data is more real, is more relevant and empowering to students. Because I'm a teacher, I super appreciate your limited time, and therefore everybody who's a part of this webinar, who signs up, is going to get full access forever, no cost, to everything, to our slides, to the software, to the pacing guide, to the graphic organizer, LMS integration, everything you need for all of your students. And because time is limited here, I'm going to go really quickly, but I do think it's important that you understand why we created Meter Hero, as well as how we can make it even better with the help of some local utility sponsors. So first of all, why should you even listen to me? Well, I'm a teacher too. This is me in Portland, Oregon at Roosevelt High School where I taught. But I do want to give credit to my co-founder, Megan Otero. She's at the top there, former teacher. She's now an administrator at a high school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. However, we've also worked with a bunch of really smart APES leaders. Andy Gorecki is a part of the Idea Schools Network down there in Texas. And a lot of you probably recognize Jordan Dissinger-Smeeds from the APES versus Everybody channel. And in fact, it's not just us. Researchers at Loyola Chicago and Marquette University studied this program, found positive results, got those results published in the Academic Journal of Elementary School Journal. We've also been featured in trusted curriculum providers like Project Lead the Way, like the U.S. Green Building Council. And I think it's important that you know why this all started for me. A lot of us care about the environment. That's why we teach this subject. For me, both my parents are from the Klamath Basin in Southern Oregon, right on the California border, where my senior year of high school, there was a big drought, and water is always a problem down there. And I remember my grandfather being really upset. And I've never heard him cuss except for this time when he was talking about the bastard governor up in Salem, Oregon, who didn't deserve to wear cowboy boots because he was choosing to, prioritize water for fish instead of for people. And that really struck with me in terms of, wanting to just be a part of the solution and not liking these challenges existing. Our communities really thrive when they have the resources that they need. And so when I got the chance, I was in graduate school getting my master's degree, partnered with a professor of mine, created this little website to get people to care about their water, showing them their rank versus their neighbors, and even offering them local rewards when they conserve. And we actually got featured in the Wall Street Journal. We felt pretty highly of ourselves because we signed up a local vodka distillery. And so the headline was, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, take a shorter shower, earn free vodka. The dirty secret, however, was that very few people signed up. And in fact, we were going to shut it down when we looked, and we had, in fact, a couple folks that seemed to be using the website a lot, and they were all .edu emails. They were teachers. We interviewed one of them. Her name was Rochelle, and she said this quote that I'll never forget. She said, "I'm using your website because my students are awesome at filling out worksheets, and I hate it." But she said, but your website, kind of stunk because the data coming from the utility was quarterly, not very interesting. Not every student had access to it. And so she said, hey, I've got an idea. Could I have the students go out and just read the meters? That way they could get data, however often they wanted. And we said, let me think about that. I'm not even sure if students could or would do that. So I convinced the local Boys and Girls Club on the south side of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to let me pilot this. Here I am with those students, 4th through 8th graders. And not only could they read the water meters and get really excited about tracking the usage there at the Boys and Girls Club, but they got really into it. In fact, this is a real screenshot of them taking daily readings for 121 days straight. And we turned out that it's not that hard to read meters. Here's an example one. It's kind of like a car odometer, 093755. And then you look up at this what they call the flow hand that goes around in a circle. And so it'd be 55. 0.1 and then count the tick marks 1, 2, right? And in fact, then they said, here's an electricity meter. This seems kind of complicated. A couple things to notice, right? The meters go in opposite directions. Here's the reading here. 4, you round down. And then this next one, you might think, well, maybe it's a 5. But if we look to the dial to the right of it, we see that just like a clock, it hasn't gone all the way around. So this one, in fact, says should be rounded down to a 4. So these are the examples. This is the hardest thing, right? So we were like, yeah, this is somewhat tricky, but students can get it. And in fact, they have all over the country again and again. But then teachers said, Rochelle included, she said, what about students without meters? What about students, living in apartment buildings? What about students on a well or navigating houselessness? And what we found from teachers have led the way, and they've had students do this at the place where they work. We've had students and teachers, audit the school building. Teachers pair students up in small groups. Some teachers even bring in photos of their meters, and the students, better believe it, love analyzing the consumption of their teachers over the weekend. So lots of solutions for how we can get students, make sure that every student can participate. And then I remember my co-founder Megan saying, hey, what we're really trying to do here is not just sort of like track data for the fun of it, but what we're trying to do is provide an opportunity for real world authentic inquiry. So Meter Hero is a software that's been built around that. Students predict their expected usage, they collect baseline or control data, they implement some sort of efficiency strategy, and then they collect experimental data to measure the difference. And it's been awesome, right? Having teachers do this and interrupt webinars like this one to say, hey, can I just say thank you for aligning this so well with the APES curriculum and our science practices? That means the world to us. And more than that, I would say, is seeing what students are doing. So here's an example, a real world screenshot from Kim Lufkin's class down in Texas. And I just love the students talking about their experimentation, showing data to back up their conclusions, recommending, how others should utilize their findings going forward to make a real difference in the community. It's just fantastic. And even when students have so much like screwed up, what we've found, for example, is that they screw up in a way that still leads to tons of learning. So here's a student who is collecting their data, and then their dad filled up the swimming pool out of the blue. And so it really messed up their data, but the student came away with the conclusion of, wow, I didn't realize how much water was used every time the pool gets filled up. And so, that's a big conclusion I'm making. And here's where I think other families, other households could benefit from also that sort of realization. And so we're getting feedback like this from teachers. This is Chris Paulus in Colleyville, Texas, who said, we're super excited to do the program again. A lot of students were really able to get into the project and feel good about what they were doing, knowing that they can do something that makes a difference. Obviously, right, teachers that do this and then want to do it again, that's the biggest compliment that we can get. What I want to do now is I want to share with you sort of 3 secrets. These are almost like best practices of what we've learned to make Meter Hero work really well. And the first is that there's the data dashboard that we created. This allows teachers to get students' personal data into APES without excluding students or even sacrificing their privacy. Secondly, is we've created this pacing guide, which shows how you can take planning off your plate rather than adding to it. And then third is utility sponsors. This is like how to kick things off with a guest speaker, get classroom tech, and motivate your students while getting paid for your efforts. We really want to make it worth your while. So first of all, let's talk about that real data dashboard. I remember working with a teacher, a TFA teacher in Milwaukee, who was talking about how they had tried to do utility stuff with their students. They created all these spreadsheets, and pretty quickly it just got way too overwhelming, right? Students editing data, it just gets crazy. And so we showed him the dashboard that we were working on, right? And the way that this works is that all the students get invited to your class. They can't mess with anybody else's data. They can enter their data. These charts are automatically created. You can create multiple classrooms. They can measure their experiment and come to conclusions, all without making you put your hair on fire trying to manage a bunch of different spreadsheets. And then this teacher said, yeah, but I really don't have much time to get all set up. I'm really stressed. There's so much to cover. And we said, great. How about let's work really hard to make it so that Meter Hero can get set up in just 8 minutes. And here's how it works. You go to teachers.meterhero.com, you sign up, you sign in with either Google or Microsoft. That way you don't have to remember more passwords. You simply come up, click up to settings, add a class. It creates this link that then you can share with students. The students click on that link. Then when they come in, they automatically get 3 different meters. They get a water meter, electricity meter, natural gas meter. And then what they do is we've built out this project plan where we walk them through step by step how they're going to collect data, implement a strategy, measure the results, so that it's totally teacher-led. You as a teacher, we provide some slides so that you can provide some context for students, but really this is meant to be mostly an at-home activity, because we all know that there's so much to cover in APES, that this is really kind of an enhancement that students do on their own. Second thing is that teachers would say, yeah, okay, where am I supposed to fit this in? Again, APES is packed. And we know that a lot of you have probably looked a little bit like this guy, trying to figure out how you're going to get in those like 100 course topics and science practices. And so this is where, again, I give a ton of credit to Andy, to Jordan, who helped us come up with this really pared down pacing guide where everything is right here: instructions, support resources, the slides that you can show to your students. And then as well, again, like the exact objectives that students are going to do to complete this authentic inquiry. And what's been awesome is that, first of all, they said, hey, let's provide students with exemplars, right? So that they know what they're getting into. So in the curriculum, first and foremost, is that we want students to understand where they're going with this. We provide exemplar materials. We even provide editable templates and graphic organizers to make this easier and more structured. We provide a kickoff video so that you don't have to, introduce it. The video can play. Students predict their usage based on local averages in their area that we help them get. We teach them about strategies that are kind of best practices for how they might decide at their home to reduce their water or energy consumption. Those are all available in Spanish and Chinese so that parents can be involved in that, so they can know what's going on. And then what's really interesting is that, starting to work with Jordan, he let me know about one challenge with APES is this FRQ section, right? These open-ended questions. And he's like, hey, let's really make Meter Hero something that can help with that. And so we developed an FRQ practice module specifically in here to help students get practice. They analyze trends and patterns in water and energy consumption. The students then, we teach them how to go read their meters. They either go read the meters directly, or we help them connect. In the case, if we have a utility sponsor, we connect with like their local utility portal where they can gather the data. They enter that data in there. If they make a mistake, it's no big deal. They can easily, correct their errors, get help from a peer. This is really low stakes, but everything matters that it's their own real data. And then what we do is we provide support for students to create a final presentation, either in slides, that one pager. We had one teacher who really wanted students to do a little social media post, so they can do it. And again, we're hearing awesome things. Like, this means a lot to me. Meter Hero gives students practice with experimental design. Something I've noticed is difficult and abstract set of skills, even for AP students, using their own real-time data. It helps them learn to communicate ideas and connect science practices in the classroom to skills they can use no matter what career path they choose. And this is awesome. I'll send you a video my kids are making about leaky sinks in the science wing. They want to present it to the principal and the plant manager. This project makes my end of the year bearable and wraps up so many APES concepts into something very real for them. I should say most often teachers use this as an enhancements for Unit 5 and 6. A lot of them like to also use it, maybe part of it, break it up across the year and use part of it at the end of the year as a final project. Some teachers have a bunch of weeks after the APES exam, so they like to kind of wrap up the year with this positive project, something different. Some teachers even start the year with a little bit of it, maybe one or two of the steps to help build a sense of relevance with the class. The third secret is that we can get you a community partner who's committed to you and wants this to be worth your while. I started this project selling it directly to teachers, and I was really humbled. I remember going into Chicago Heights, Illinois, Jill Krasinski's classroom, and she was willing to find the $200 to pay for this, but it was really painful. And, she had to go write a grant with the school. And I just remember being like, oh, I'm so thankful, Jill, for your, payment. But honestly, like, this really stinks. Teachers don't have money for these kind of things. And so I was so grateful when not too long after that, I actually had utilities reach out to us and say, I've got schools that will eat this up. Can we cover the costs for local teachers? And I came to realize that why they want to do this is, number one, there's scarcity. Communities are growing. It costs a lot to build a new reservoir or a new power plant. And so if you can get families to be more efficient, it actually is a big money saver for utilities, and that can help a lot. Second thing is that oftentimes they're required and they want to reach families, especially in hard to reach communities. They have programs that they're trying to get communities aware of. And, billboards, bill inserts are expensive and, only go so far. So they're looking for new ways to reach families. And then lastly is that they actually have a career need. There's a bunch of baby boomers who are headed for retirement and they want to make careers in the utilities something that students are aware of. And so we partner with local utilities. We customize the dashboard to highlight things like careers, local programs that are available. We even have this little virtual tour that we'll build to kind of help students understand where their water and energy are coming from. When we have a utility sponsor, we can bring in a guest speaker who can help launch this thing. They bring in tech, tools that students can take home to be more efficient. And beyond that, even like these utility partners, they're like, hey, let's really make it worth it for teachers. Let's give them some swag. Let's help put on a happy hour at the APES reading every year, get them a certificate, so that we can get them some recognition with their administrators at the school. In some cases, right, depending on district policy, we can provide a stipend or clock hours. We've arranged community presentations where the students go and talk about what they did, at the utility. And we've even had some teachers who have gone to like the state science conference that we've helped make happen and spread the word. So we want to do a lot of different things to make it worth your while to do this program. And what we really need from you is just to implement with your students. The utilities want you to share some of the, share the work that students do so that they can take it to their stakeholders and really show like the impact that students can have when they engage in this type of data inquiry with their own utility work. A best practice is that teachers make this for a grade. We've had a lot of teachers who've like kind of piloted it with students as an optional thing. It does obviously tend to get more buy-in and lead to more substantial projects when it's part of the grade. Again, some teachers use it as that final project, which is really effective. So let me just ask you a quick question. If I can get you full access to everything, I just want to show you real quick how I can do that. I hope that's okay. So real quick, you're going to go to teachers.meterhero.com, fill in the form here. It's going to ask you some really basic information about your school and where you're located. There's going to be an option to have you opt into text message. Why that's good is because sometimes there's school firewalls, and if we have a text, number, then we can make sure that you actually get the link that you're going to need. That link is going to come in an email. Also, reply success to the email. That way, like the firewalls know that we're safe to correspond with you. Again, you're going to sign in with either Microsoft or Google, create that link, share it with your students, get them all signed up. And the other thing that'll happen is that if you're liking the program, if you think it's something that you really want to use with your students, the best thing you can do is just send us over like 2 to 3 sentences of why you think Meter Hero is important. Ayla in Seattle sent us over this sentence. She said, access to Meter Hero will empower my students to take charge of their own sustainability and finances by giving them access to their own utility data in real time. This builds a sense of environmental awareness and responsibility that they will carry with them into their adult lives. And so I was able to use that couple sentences, reach out to the Seattle Public Utilities, and we're working on getting Ayla and teachers all around her area sponsored with this program. So that's it. Why don't you go ahead and put some questions in the chat and we can open it up. Go ahead and sign up at teachers.meterhero.com. We'd love to have you be a part of this community and make a real difference with your students and boost exam scores. Thanks so much.